My name is Jamie Lee Bongard, and today's guest is a dear friend I've had the privilege of knowing for almost a decade. He is the founder of a thriving business with interests across the USA, Canada, Australia, and the Caribbean. Among 30,000 industry professionals, he ranks in the top 1% with over $1 billion in real estate transactions. He's a real estate wealth building expert and the founder of Kanga Mortgage. He is none other than Dion Begg. Beyond business, Dion has spent 2 decades passionately educating others, teaching at universities in Australia, Fortune 500 companies in Japan, and now mentoring his team, clients, and industry peers on building wealth through real estate. I'm so grateful to have you here with me.
Well, that is super. I feel extremely honored.
We'll start with just a moment of a deep breath because I've never done this before. You've been a guest before on many things, but
Yes.
just to ground us, and then I would love to do something that you're grateful for, if you're okay with that. So breathe in, and I don't do these exercises, so if you have a technique, feel free to share, and out. And do you
Sure.
have something that comes to you right away that you would like to share that you're grateful for?
Yeah, I think perspective. So I think every day you wake up and you can choose to figure out if you have that glass half full or half empty, and just the ability to keep choosing the half full of those options is what I'm grateful for. The choice to choose happiness.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful that you've taken the time to be here with me today and share some of your expertise. It's been incredible because I've known you for quite a while, and we've gone.
Yeah, you knew me when my beard wasn't gray.
Yes, exactly.
So,
And we've gone in and out of connecting and reconnecting, and I had 4 children
well,
along the
you
way,
don't
and
have all those babies to keep the world populated.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just share, it's great to have honest, candid conversations. That's why I've decided to call this Real Stories Podcast, taking another look and perspective into some experts' lives and what they've learned on their journey. So I'm very grateful that you're able to be candid in that conversation with me and open to sharing some of that. And I'll just guide you through some questions, and whatever you're comfortable sharing or expanding on that I don't ask, I encourage you to do that.
Okay.
I know, and I've watched you not just talk, but I've actually seen and heard the stories of the families you've impacted and how you have helped families leave a legacy through building wealth in real estate. You've also done this yourself, and it's extremely commendable because there's people that talk about these things, but they're not actually taking action and doing them. So, and you've built a phenomenal business, Kanga Mortgage. So I want you to take a minute and brag about you. I want you to share your company, what you do, what you're an expert in, and where your heart lies, and where this was all founded from.
Okay. Well, that'll be quite a story. I hope you have enough film. You don't run out of film. But thankfully it's digital. But the company's called Kanga Mortgage. It's called Kanga Mortgage because I grew up and spent most of my life in Australia. And I figured, well, what better name for a company than an animal? And what animal do people associate with, say, Australia is Kanga. So hence the name Kanga Mortgage. So it's a small mortgage team based out of the GTA. We have focused our business on helping people through 4 stages of life as it relates to real estate and finance. And so that is buying your first home, getting debt-free, setting up your children, and setting up your own retirement. And I identified very early that, almost everybody goes through these stages. And I figured that if we could build our business to serve people through all those stages of their life, then we number one, we remain relevant, but we get the highest value in our business when we provide the highest value to our clients. And so if we can be with them at every stage of that journey, which is frankly more of a perspective that a financial planner would take, then we know that we're going to be important and relevant to them. And what's funny is at the end of this, I probably have to add number 5 to this list of 4, which is we're now helping people's children buy their homes because of the hard work that we've done in those previous decades, setting up those families to be able to do that. So that's what we do right now. But if you want to go back to, how this all started, it's a pretty interesting story. I don't know if I've shared this with you, Jamie. So when I was in university, I actually studied Japanese and international business. And I lived and worked in Japan for about 4 years. And in my time in Japan, I started reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I was in Japan, I bought my first house back in Australia. And when I returned to Australia, it was with the intention to go into the field of international business, probably working with a consulting company like, say, a KPMG or Deloitte, or maybe working in the world of trade, like international trade between Australia and Japan, using my Japanese language skills and business skills. But when I came back to Australia, I had saved $20,000 cash, which I thought was tremendous for a 24-year-old. Mm-hmm. But the house that I'd purchased had increased by $80,000 in the same 4-year window. And I said to myself, wow, this gives me choices that I didn't have before. And so that's when I decided to that was one of the big forks in the road for me, which was, let me go and explore this thing that is real estate and understand how it's impacted the choices I have in my life. And then once I learned about that, I said, well, how is it that I can then take this knowledge and then use it to start helping other people achieve the same thing, which is giving more choices, which then gives freedom, like real freedom in life. Mm-hmm. So that's where it all started 24 years ago.
Wow. Incredible story. And do you still have those properties in Australia today?
I do, yes. I just had to order a trimming of a tree in a property just this week. But yeah, that very first property that I referenced there, I still own back in Australia. And it's just done what you would hope any property does. It just grows in value over time. Yeah, it's quite funny. It's almost sentimental. I don't think I could ever actually sell that one now.
So just for perspective, how old were you when you purchased that? How many years ago was that? And I would love to just hear the real piece of it. Like, what did you buy it for? What's it worth today?
Oh, sure. Okay. So I was 21. It was the year 2001. And I bought in a location outside of the capital city of Brisbane, which is the capital of Queensland, Australia. And so comparatively, I would say it's in a location similar to, say, Oshawa, okay, meaning blue collar, more affordable. And I bought that property in 2001 for $60,000. And I think actually, if you go back to Oshawa 2001, you'll probably find properties at that same price point.
Interesting.
Right? And so, yeah, so that's the price that we paid for it back then. I remember my brother-in-law, who was the one helping me because I was living in Japan, and he was the driver behind all this. He's like, Dion, you've got to buy this property. And I believed him. Back then, he said on the day that he signed the purchase agreement on my behalf, they needed a deposit, and he didn't have any deposit, but anything would do. So he literally gave $5 cash for the deposit. And so that's how it all started. My real estate purchasing started with $5 borrowed from my brother-in-law.
Wow. So and now what is that property worth?
Yeah. So at last look, it's at 500,000 today. And it also has the ability to split the land and segregate the land. So there's a lot of upside to be had. And honestly, it's one of those little things where, when I look towards my future, I say, oh, that'll be a project that I can work on in my retirement. It's not something I necessarily want to or need to do now, but it's nice to sort of, and I say this to my clients, it's nice to plant seeds and watch those trees grow over the years, knowing that you can go and harvest those trees or develop them at any time in the future.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. And I guess you rented this property out from the age of 21, correct?
You got it, yes.
So who paid for it? Did you borrow more money from your brother, or did the tenants that rented the property pay for the property?
Yeah, so somehow we managed to get a mortgage for me. And so it's interesting. So for perspective, the day we bought that property, and remember, this is the good old days, Jamie, so these numbers aren't really available in today's world, but I bought that property for $60,000 and it rented for $400 a month. Mm-hmm. Put that in today's perspective, that's like buying a $600,000 property that rents for $4,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, those numbers are achievable today, but they're a little harder to find. Yeah, actually, I have actually funded some like that this year.
Nice. That's incredible. So thank you for sharing that story. That's what this is all about. Really bringing perspective right out of the gates on what it is you do, a personal testimony as to how you've done just one example of that. My intention is, of course, to capture the realness of our journey as well. And I wanted to hear maybe a story to normalize things a little bit, where you came from, the reality of life, because once you get to an expert level, sometimes people look at you or hear you speak and think like, I could never do that. That's Dion. He already owns all these properties all over the world and it's just too far out. So you kind of just shed a little bit of light, but I'd love to hear something about the real stuff. Like, no matter what has happened in life, people who have had some horrible things happen to them often say that they learned the most in those moments. I think you actually taught something at one of our leadership events, that you did a study on how people, the most successful people, become successful. And it was something to the effect of grit or something like that, the ability to persevere, willpower. And so I'd love to hear if you have a personal story of a low or something you came from that really created that in you. Like, what gave you your grit, your willpower and perseverance to just keep going?
Okay, well, there's several stories to choose from, but I'll choose this one. I moved to Canada in 2008, and it was under some strained circumstances. My wife's father was not well, and we basically just had to pack up our lives and move suddenly to Canada, and that's all fine. I'm happy to say he got much better, and he's living a good life. But that was the sort of the catalyst for us to move to Canada. Now, in the years prior, I had been in Australia. I'd been deeply in the world of financial planning and real estate. And along that journey, I met a bunch of people, and one of them was a property developer who was buying land, building houses, and selling them successfully. And for several years, I had been investing money into these types of projects. And they'd been returning funds consistently year after year. Now, in the year that we were about to leave, what happened was there was some mismanagement of one of those investments, and it was the year 2008. You remember the significance of 2008 and what happened with global finance in that year?
Yeah.
It was the global financial crisis. And so what happened was banks turned off the tap for high risk lending, which for these guys was property development. And so I had a bunch of money invested. The project wasn't completed, and my funds were not returned to me.
Wow.
And this is right at the time when you're leaving a country and heading to a new country to start a new life, right? If those funds were returned to me, I should have been coming to Canada with hundreds of thousands of dollars, 400,000 to be exact. And I actually had to sue that developer. I won judgment in my favor for $430,000 to cover my legal fees as well. And then he promptly declared bankruptcy. And so all of that money disappeared in the blink of an eye. And again, now I'm in my one-bedroom apartment that we're renting at Yonge and Eglinton in Toronto, having tried to pursue this money for several years now, and realizing that this money was gone and never coming back. So that's how I started financially in Toronto. And yeah, so I'll tell you what happened there. Oh, and I was lucky enough to have found my way into mortgage brokering at the time. But what happened in that instance, Jamie, was I started to doubt my own judgment. And people talk about, confidence and, self-confidence is important. But I would say to you, one of the most dangerous things that could ever happen to anybody, but in particular, say an entrepreneur, is when you start to doubt your own decisions. Mm-hmm. Because it was my decision to invest that money into that thing, which resulted in this very poor outcome. And And for probably 2 years there, I would say I operated in a state of scarcity and self-doubt. And I wouldn't diagnose it, but it was probably what people refer to as depression, because of the fact that I had this particular view for my life as to how things would work out financially, economically, and that had taken a massive hit sideways. So that was the negative for sure. That was a very big bad thing that happened to me early in my life.
Wow. And I guess if you could say one thing that you would share with others or that helped you overcome it, was there something that sort of sparked that turnaround or ability to just persevere despite being what you felt was in the trenches at the time with no clear way out?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. So I think for people like you and me, Jamie Lee, you and I have to wake up and we have to have a vision. And that vision is usually quite large and extended over a prolonged period of time. And in fact, that's what I do every day with my clients. We talk about not just today and tomorrow, but 5, 10, 15 years, right? And that's how I had been living my life up until that event happened. When that event happened, I still wanted to be that big picture person, that future thinker. But it was very hard to be that. And what I realized is I had to go micro for a period of time, which was maybe temporarily, well, I said to myself, temporarily, let us forget about thinking about the 15, 20-year number, and let's just think about today and tomorrow, which is really just wake up today with a view that you're going to end the day with some level of success. And it doesn't have to be this, $1 million 20-year vision. It could be $100 one-day vision. Mm-hmm. And so making those daily baby steps, setting micro goals and then achieving those goals, and then building up a little bit of, well, not just cash, but also confidence as you secure those minor wins every day is really what I think got me back on track.
Amazing. Yeah. I find that when I'm in a place where my mindset's not right or I'm having self-doubt, it's the daily habits and doing the consistent repetitive things over time that are good for the soul, good for the mind, like waking up early, I pray, reading a book, getting out for a run, having the sunlight hit your face. Those are the elements that can really...
This is coming from a lady who has 4 children. That's a huge achievement to be able to do that in the morning.
When the kids aren't getting up out of bed and running into another room or needing a bubba or whatever. I mean, at night when the circus acts happen. But that's the thing, right? You've got to make priority for yourself, because if you can't show up for yourself and take the time to pour into you, how do you show up for others, right? And it's the daily little things, like you said, that help get through the dark trenches of life that sometimes come at us like a freight train. Yeah.
And if you can have those little wins every day, then it gives you that confidence that something else better will come.
Amazing. So now the proud impact moment. So you've come out of the trenches, you're starting to have the habits that are starting to form and lead to success. What moment of impact, or I guess gain or success coming out of that, are you most proud of? Is there something that resonates and stands out for you?
Yeah, so I think, again, there's many to choose from, but I'll give you just a simple example. I started my business, as I said, 2008-9 in Toronto. I happened to be at that time working at an office that was located in Scarborough at Shepherd and Victoria Park. And if you were to draw a circle around that area, the group of people who were living in that area were new to Canada immigrants, most of which were low-level labor workers, like in terms of income, right? And so at that time, I was helping people who were not just first-time home buyers, but first ever owners of real estate in their entire family lineage, if you could imagine, right?
Wow.
These are people making 20 or 30 to $40,000 a year at the time. Most of whom were from the Caribbean. And at that point, now we're talking nearly 18 years ago, or whatever that is, helping them buy their first home with that minor income. But now, 20 or so years later, I'm helping those people help their children buy properties. And it's so powerful to see the impact of, what that one decision to become a property owner has had on those families. And in addition to that, helping other people along the way, once they've realized they can buy one property, secure their next and their next in very safe and methodical ways. And now, we've helped people who literally came to this country with, the clothes on their back, so it seems, to be in positions to be in, say, maybe the top 10% of net worth in the country.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that. I believe we're all meant to own land, be fruitful and multiply while we're here on this earth. And I think the impact that you're making in being able to literally change the lineage and the future generations for these people is just so profound and admirable. That's one of the biggest reasons I keep on following you and wanting to learn more, because I think the more people that can realize that they do have the ability and the potential, it will transform their children's lives. And that's really,
100%. Yeah. And I think, I'll just share the story with you. I was actually with a friend of mine a couple of years ago. He works in medical sales, medical instrument sales, and he works with a lot of doctors, mostly oncologists. And we were just having a conversation about, the impact that these people make on people's lives. These are lifesavers. And I asked him this question, which was, are those people happy? They're so well respected. These doctors are so well respected. Are they happy? And he shared with me that, the majority of them actually are not. And I asked him why. And he said it's because, generally speaking, they're meeting people at their worst time in their lives. And then he turned to me and he said, but Dion, you get to meet people at like the most exciting time in their lives. And I'd never actually made that connection. And that's what continues to give me energy today to actually bounce out of bed and say, I'm not going to work because it's going to, and I'm not going to end my day dragged down and tired. I usually end my day re-energized because I get to meet people at that most exciting point in their life.
Wow, that's amazing. It actually sort of led right into my next question for you.
Okay, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a proud impact moment. That's what gives you energy. I think it's so important that we're doing things to make us feel happy and joyful and full of what we love, really. And obviously you show up in a space where you really do what you love, and that's why you're so successful at it. What would you say is your superpower? Or what do you identify with? Like, what is it that people go to you for the most advice on?
Sure. So I'll share you some of the comments that people make or have made in relation to interactions, which probably sort of summarizes what I think that is. So I hear this all the time. People say to me, Dion, I wish I'd met you 10 years ago. Or they say to me, Dion, I wish that I'd learned this earlier because it would have changed the financial trajectory of my life. And it all comes down to them understanding that today, me talking to them and understanding a concept and a possibility which existed for them for the last 10 years, but they didn't receive that information in a way that made sense to them. And there's many people in our industry, Jamie, who certainly are experts or espouse to be experts, but if you can't take what you know and synthesize it into something that is important for your client, then no matter how much you know, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to communicate with them in a way that's going to move them to the action that's going to benefit them.
Right.
And so I think if you were to say the superpower would be to take information and present it in a way that people will feel compelled that they understand it. They take the info, they convert it to now knowledge, and they take that knowledge and convert it to action. That's probably the secret sauce here.
Yes. And you certainly have that. I've seen it when you present what you do and how clear it becomes. And you do that. You take what is possible or seems impossible. You create action items that make it a possibility for somebody that never could have imagined in their wildest dreams that it is one. And I've seen it in the slides you share, the examples, the stories. It's really powerful stuff. So I'm excited to plug into that with you and be able to really, with the real estate professionals we have in the 3 offices, as well as our team in York Region, be able to take what you have and share that education series with our clients so that we can help them build wealth in real estate, leave a legacy. From your perspective, with everything that is going on right now, like all of the unknowns and the current market, what do you feel? Do you think it's a good time to buy and invest in real estate?
You know, when I'm asked that question, the other things I look at are what are the alternatives? And it's always good to look at the alternatives before we decide on this path or a particular path. And the alternatives are, okay, if we're not going to buy real estate, what are we going to do? Well, maybe we're probably going to rent somewhere. That's one option. Or if you're investing money, the question is, okay, where are you investing that money? And where most people would invest is usually in real estate or in some form of the stock market. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I learned very, very early in my days in financial planning was one of my mentors said to me, Dion, you know what? No matter what happens with the economy, businesses can open and close, stocks can go up and down, but everybody needs a place to sleep at night. And that's where my solid belief has always been that if you can own the shelter in which people need to sleep at night, be it the roof over your own head or investing in investment property, then in my mind, real estate's always been positioned as one of the safer assets.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. I love that. I've seen my own parents do this in amazing ways, right? They took risks in buying residential real estate when nobody else was. Everyone was totally freaked out. And over time, that investment grows. And along the way, you do help other families who do need a place to rent and live, have a place that they can call home. So I think that there's so much beauty in owning real estate, investing in it. I've done it firsthand at a very young age, 18. I bought my first investment property in London, Ontario. I always joke around, my biggest regret is selling it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you look back and go, oh, why didn't I refinance that one? I drove past it.
You didn't know. We didn't have the opportunity to talk then.
I didn't know. Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have convinced you to refinance it.
We didn't. I drove past that property. I was 18. I think I bought it for $165,000 back in 2000 and I want to say 2004, but I can't remember the exact timeline. And it is now worth $700,000. I think I sold it for $100,000 more than what I bought it, and I rented it out to 5 students. And my whole university years were basically payment free because I lived in a house that other people were paying for. And then when I did sell it, I was in love with someone from Switzerland, and I took that equity out of that house and I paid for my master's degree in Switzerland. So it wasn't a bad move for me at the time. My parents didn't want to have to manage a student rental in London, Ontario, which is another thing I've learned from you, that, you know, you can't be the property manager for multiple homes, and it's actually a really silly decision. So I'd love to hear, going to that next, if I had not have sold my home, what would you advise somebody to do that is looking at purchasing rental units or rental homes or student properties or houses internationally? What's the big tip? What would you have told me when I was 23 and didn't want to manage the property anymore?
So there's a couple of answers to this. So the big tip is, where possible, if you can hold on to growth assets, the longer you can hold them, the wealthier you will get over time. That's just, read any textbook on compound growth, and any investor in any asset, that's what they will tell you. That said, though, Jamie, you know, what you did with your asset at that time served your life, and how can we measure what that choice has then given you in terms of a husband, a family, international living, and all of those. So this is the other thing, like we don't measure everything in dollars, right? And this is really important. And it's what is the outcome you're trying to achieve? People invest in real estate not because they love the bricks and mortar, but it's because it's going to serve a greater purpose or need or goal in their life. And so the first question I ask a person when they're looking to invest is not, how much money do you have and what are you looking to buy and what purchase price? They come later. The first question is, what is that goal that you're trying to achieve? And let us figure out if this property and this plan is going to serve that goal. And then we reverse engineer, right? And so for some people that may well be, you know what, I don't have much in RSPs and my pension's not going to be great. So in 10 or 20 years from now, I'd like to have an extra couple $100,000. For other people, it would be, I have 3 kids. I'm trying to do the best for their education. Actually, this is a true story. I met a guy at the library when I was at the library with my child 10 years ago. A radiologist making good money, 3 kids. And we were just chatting. And he said, this is what I'm trying to do for my kids. And he was doing the education savings plan, the RESP.
Yeah.
And he was explaining that, each kid is $200 a month. It's $600 a month. And then he might end up with $100,000 each, which would be $300,000 for these children. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. Let me show you what we're doing with our clients. And what I showed him is that the acquisition of one property, which wouldn't cost him $600 a month, actually gave him positive cash flow, would likely achieve for him not $300,000, but $1 million over the same period of time. And I literally spoke to this client last week. His children are now in their teens. And the plan is actually, his current trajectory is better than the plan. So he's laughing. So what's the real estate for? What's the real estate for?
Amazing. Yeah. There's so many stories that you have. I just keep hearing new ones, and it means that you're doing good. You're making an impact. And that's probably a part of what brings you joy, knowing like, great, I'm building a life by design for myself. I'm helping other families build a life for their children, for them, so that they can have freedom and move forward in the direction of life that is in alignment with the plan. So thank you for answering that. And I guess the other part of that question is, if I had have kept that property in London, or you still have this property in Australia, do you fly over there and like fix the toilets and stuff? Or
Oh, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Actually, when I do fly over there, I go and walk through it just to see how it looks.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I wouldn't know how to fix a toilet, sad to say, Jamie Lee. But yeah, so along the way, it's engagement of professionals who you can trust to look after your property. As always, you still have to manage those people. So it's not like hands off. Anybody who tells you that real estate investing is 100% passive is not telling you the full truth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing is, like with everybody, you need to determine what is the best and highest use of your time. And if you think the best and highest use of your time is getting in your car and driving to your investment property on the weekend when you could have been spending time with your family, if you think that you're better off fixing that toilet, then maybe you want to reconsider your priorities in life.
Okay. I totally agree. And I think sometimes we can get so sidetracked in our, what's urgent isn't necessary. And we get very misaligned with our actual values. And if we're not very focused on that, it can get very messy, and you become a plumber for your investment properties in places you shouldn't be. I mean, if you tried to go fix that toilet, I'm sure it wouldn't work very well. That does lead to the next question. Like, there's so many things evolving in the world. There's so much change and rapid pace, and business can get crazy busy. And then you do get out of alignment with what your vision and your focus and your purpose is. So can you share with me, if you have values that sort of ground you, keep you anchored, how you plan stuff around your family and your business. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure, sure. So I think like many people in the Western world, I was taught to measure success based on dollars in the bank, you know, how much money you make and how much net worth you have. And those things are important, but I was lucky enough to learn and meet a bunch of people along the way who introduced me to this concept of the wheel of life. Are you familiar with this, Jamie Lee?
No.
No? Okay. So, you know, the wheel of life is, if you want to imagine a wheel, and the goal is to, and the segments of the wheel, if you were to cut it up like a pizza, and there's different, let's say there's 8 slices on this pizza wheel. And each of these sections of this slice of pizza represents certain segments of your life. So that could be your friendships, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your children, your fitness, your relationship with your parents, your finances, and your faith. Like if you were to throw that all in a pizza, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ask yourself, if you were to rate yourself 1 out of 10, 1 to 10 in each of these segments of life, with 1 being really close to the center and 10 being at the outer ring, then if you hit a 10 on all of these things, then you're basically living a full life. You're hitting success in every aspect of your life. And along the way, though, you'll notice that, and as you said there, as life changes, you'll be giving more energy to one section, which robs time and energy from another section. And the thing that grounds me is every now and then taking a snapshot, a mental snapshot of where am I in all of these things? And am I actually balancing things to the point that, okay, if business is going great, but that's coming at the cost of my relationship with my children, then that's something that needs to be recalibrated.
Yeah.
And this is where, and I'm very fortunate that my wife works together with me in the background of our business, but is the engine of the business, frankly. That we are able to control some of these factors as it relates to time in the business, time with family, fitness. We go to the gym together, those types of things. So I think that's it. It's having success in one thing and ensuring it doesn't come at the expense of the other thing.
I love that. That's so on purpose. And I mean, I wouldn't have expected any less than the absolute perfect answer from you. I really love it. And I love seeing how you have created that vision for your family. And you sent me an email with these photos of just absolute, it's like this glowing, radiant love that I see come out of these photos of you guys living this life that you've designed that way. You're on purpose about it. It shows up. You look like the same age than when I first met you, like you just radiate that energy of joy and love and all that we should be in this world. So I love that. You. And that question was an important one to ask, because I know you've got wisdom in that area. Can you, I guess, share with me if there's anything like a riddle that you're still trying to solve, even at your level of success and all that you've achieved? What is there that you're still trying to put your finger on, become better at, or a certain challenge that you're currently navigating?
Yeah, so I'll take this on a personal level. So I have 2 daughters. They're 10 and 12 years old today, and I'm sure this will resonate with many parents out there, of children of similar, who have children of similar age. The question is, what are these children going to be doing in their careers and in their life 10 to 20 years from now? This is a ever evolving puzzle, because every day you wake up, a certain industry is being impacted by robotics and technology, and in particular AI. And so that's the puzzle. And then the question is, okay, well, what do you do with that question, and how do you approach it? And I read a couple of books by author Yuval Noah Harari, I think is his name. And he wrote 2 books. One is called Sapiens, which is the history of mankind. And one is called Homo Deus, which is about the future of mankind. And in that book, he said something quite profound, which is, he said, Jamie Lee, you and me and our parents were brought up in a society where we were taught to go and get educated and qualified, and then get into a career path. And that would be what we would call your foundation. And that foundation would be poured in concrete. Mm-hmm. And then you would build your life and your career in these bricks and stones and on this one spot, and build that to be as strong as you could be. But he said that is now probably a thing of the past. He said that what we need to teach our children is that they need to look at the terrain that is in front of them and be able to pitch a tent on that terrain and be able to be nimble enough to adapt to whatever is happening in that environment. And then understand that that will not be forever, that in 5 years or 10 years or whatever that time frame will be, you will have to be able to pack up that tent and hike over to a different location, different terrain, different environment, and be able to quickly adapt to whatever that is. Mm-hmm. So if that's the goal, my goal now for my children is to figure out ways in which we can make sure that if and when the world changes, that they're ready for it.
I love it. And I guess the perspective, really, if I'm looking at what you've built, the blessing in it is because you have been able to build wealth in real estate assets and owning land and owning multiple places, there's probably a little bit of a like an exhale of like, okay, there's security there. Would you agree with that statement? That even though they're going to constantly be moving this tent along this fast pace of life that we're on right now, it's like warp speed. You've created security for your family in what you've built.
And look, there is no doubt that having net worth and a decent income gives you choices that you wouldn't otherwise have, and allows you to take what I would say is the home run hits instead of just the base hits. Right? Well, one of my early mentors, and actually maybe we'll go through this quick exercise now. He said, imagine that you had $10 million in the bank. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, that's ridiculous. And he got very serious with me for a second. He said, no, I want you to literally think about the idea that tomorrow you wake up and you have $10 million sitting in your bank account. And I said, okay. And, understanding that he was serious, I gave it the attention it deserved. And then he said, how would you then live your life? How would you interact with your clients? How would you interact with your family? How would you approach decision-making if you had that behind you? And something really clicked in my brain at that point, which was, okay, no, I would have more confidence. I would have the ability to say no more. I would be okay making a decision, knowing that the decision may not work out, but I'd still be okay. Mm-hmm. And then he sort of said, well, you don't have the money yet, but if you believe that it's in your future, why don't you live like that now? And so that's basically what I did. That was one of the most impactful lessons I learned at a very early age.
That's amazing. And it's so crystal clear to me, I think, what we create in our mind and the vision that we cast and what we tell ourselves does become reality. If we truly believe it and have faith that that will happen, it will become. So if we were sitting here a year from now and you were telling me like things are so perfect and awesome, or if you're a big vision thinker, let's go 10 years out.
10 years, okay.
I mean, it might be a bit too far, but what has to happen for us to be celebrating you and all that you've succeeded with your family and with all of your clients? Is there something that you feel you want to impact, or that there's a dream or a milestone that you've got ahead of you that will become a reality?
Yeah. So, let's see. So at that age, at 10 years from now, say my kids are going to be 20 and 22. My hope is that they're now on some kind of a path in a field that they're interested in, which we've encouraged and developed and nurtured, and they're on that path. And it may not necessarily be in even university education, but something that they're going to be happy with, and they're serving and getting value from. So that's a big part of it. In terms of my life, I would hope that our business is still thriving. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're multi-billionaires or have that type of a business, but that the people that work for us are happy to continue to get up and go to work and serve people. And I would say also, as much as right now, a lot of my life has been serving people as it relates to finances and real estate and helping them on that financial piece of that life puzzle. I've actually started to help other people, professionals and individuals with just in general that wheel of life concept, and have those conversations and start to guide them. So if that's something that could grow in the next 10 years, then that's something that I think would put me in a position where I'd be, again, continuously happy to get up and serve.
I love that. You're living out your passion and already starting to take action on it. So thank you. That's pretty incredible.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to ask, is there anything left unsaid? Anything that we haven't talked about that you feel you need to share?
Let's see. So I'll say this to our fellow professionals in the world of real estate in particular, Jamie Lee, which is, I know that a lot of you have a lot of abilities to help others. And if there's something that you can take away from today, it's getting clear on the way in which you can stand in the shoes of your client and figure out how you can communicate with them in a way that's going to move them to action. I think that, and as you probably know, Jamie, I teach at Aurea, I teach at Treb, and I teach sort of high level stuff, intricate financing stuff. But the most important thing that I teach is that every professional has that ability to go and impact the people in their world by clearly communicating them, moving them to the action that they need to take. And so if there was one thing that I could say is, if you need help with that, feel free to reach out, because it's, again, as you can clearly see, it's the part of the job that I enjoy the most. And you have the power to really impact a bunch of people, but it really comes down to empathy and communication.
Amazing. I love it. And I think asking great questions too, finding out what it is they need, like you said.
Yeah.
And with the current, way of the world and how fast it's moving and the unknowns of tariffs and all of the political and social unrest that is happening, I look so forward to, just asking great questions and educating with you. I know we've got a couple really awesome things down the pipe with educational series that people can tap into and learn more on how to do this. The greatest generational wealth transfer ever in the history of the world is coming up. And there's ways that people that don't know how to help their children buy a home because they're so expensive in the GTA, there's tips and tricks and things that you've got available to help educate them on that. So I'm looking forward to talking more and learning more. I guess I want to leave it with, is there anything that I can do? Is there a connection that I can make, or somebody that I can link you to in my world that could help you or open a door or make your vision and mission possible?
Oh, okay. Didn't expect the question, but I don't know if I shared this with you. A couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to do some public speaking at Harvard University. Mm-hmm. And the plan was to continue that path of public speaking. That was in the year 2020. And 2019, and the following year, 2020, COVID hit, and the world of public speaking was closed down. And then life changed, circumstances changed. I had a particular vision for that thing, and it's sort of been put to the back burner. But if there's somebody out there who's interested in the topics that we're talking about here, I'd be very happy to be connected there.
Amazing. I know we're going to have people asking to have you speak 100%. Great. You're so full of knowledge and so passionate about it. And if you haven't seen Dion speak about this, I mean, the slides that go with his presentation will literally rock your world and change your life. So I wanted to give you an opportunity just to close out with any social media websites that you currently have so that people can connect with you after today.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so you can find our company at kangamortgage.ca. So that's the kangaroo with the maple leaf in the middle. And on Instagram, you'll find me at the Dion Beg.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your passion and your energy and your knowledge. I really appreciate you joining me. And thanks. I look forward to working more with you in the near future.
Thank you, Jamie Lee.
Thank you for watching this episode of Real Stories with me, Jamie Lee Bongard. I hope you were inspired enough to share this with your colleagues, friends, and loved ones. If you'd like to see more from us, be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms linked below. Wishing you all the love and prosperity in the world. Remember to be fruitful and multiply. See you in the next episode of Real Stories.